picks and bans, please. On the way, and Obey will opt for the first pick.
Obey, I think that Zeus is still a decent direction to head in,
yes.
but definitely need to see a little bit more control from them. I think that they kind of just lost sight of how problematic a Discordia and this Humbots would be together, which is why we see Obey immediately taking out the Discordia. Also, BigManTingz in general has had a lot of really strong performances in the past on Discordia. This definitely seems like one of his more staple gods.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the play on the left lane where Discordia basically gets caught out, and then it winds up being a 4-for-no trade, Gold Fury for Mouse. I mean, BigManTingz had no business getting out of that, but somehow does it, makes it happen. Zhong first selection for Obey. I'd love to see this in the hands of PrettyPriMe. I want to see a power-built Zhong here. I think that's the way to go. Mouse with the global Athena.
Hard to call right now, because I could also see this being a very viable option for Xaliea, even in that solo lane. I think that solo lane Zhong is something that has started to resurface lately with the reappearance of healers.
Oh, yeah.
And I like this pick in general, because not only that, but the Odin pickup just leaves so much ambiguity there for Obey's composition right now. I think we all know where Agni's going, though.
Yeah, Agni goes in the middle lane. Dardez is on Mouse, not Obey, so no Agni support today for Obey. Although with iRaffer, you do have an open idea. But Odin is going to do a great job against Chang'e and the Athena, who has to use the ultimate to get on out of there. Ullr, though, will be able to jump on out. Nice response from Mouse, whether Ullr winds up in the mid lane or the Hunter roll, or it says Mouse, so maybe even the jungle. Who knows? Second round of bans coming out, and I think it's very important to mention the first round of bans. No Zeus. Mouse realized, yes, we figured out how to beat the Zeus with our last composition. We don't want to try that again. We did it, but you ever do something and just go, all right, well, I hope I caught it on tape?
It's important to note also that Mouse were actually first pick in the last game, which makes a significant difference in terms of what they can and can't deal with. As the first pick team, they were able to prioritize gods that they felt would sufficiently deal with the Zeus, and well, it's evident that that worked out really well for them, because that draft definitely won them game 2.
Obey are going to ban out the Bacchus. Very interesting there. Banning away the Bacchus from Dardez. Just did not like the way he plays. And, you know, it's funny. Dardez has this power as a support player to really, like, all right, they picked Athena. We still have to ban Bacchus? Like, that is power in and of itself.
A mirror.
I would love to see it.
I think that's what I'm waiting for. Obey actually banned it in the 3rd and 4th slots in their last match. Yeah. So, Mouse, if Dardez wants to play a mirror, it's on the table. Does a great job at cutting off some gods, but Ares instead, see, this is the other side. This is the flip side of the coin, where it's still just as aggressive as what an Amir pick might have been, if not, arguably even more aggressive. But the cripple is so strong against every single member on Obey outside of the Zhong. This is going to be a feast or famine type of match here for Dardez, I think. Also,
what I love about the Ares is likely to be in the hands of Dardez. I'm going to continue to say likely, even though Ares really doesn't play any other position. I would love to see a Spear of the Magus built from Dardez, which is not that weird, specifically because the ability to chew through Zhong protections, very, very important. And Dardez is the type of guy that will just buy a Spear of the Magus on an Ares. I got to ask you, Taco, I mean, after game 2, I'm going to tell you, I think Mouse takes this after the way they just played.
I'm leaning a little bit more towards Mouse here, but honestly, both of these compositions are beautiful.
Yeah, this is just going to be good old-fashioned, good smite. We got a barn burner on our hands. Obey and Mouse, ready, set, go.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Taco. Let's move into Game 3 between these two squads, and an Ares gets pulled out. Gotta think that's going to Dardez, probably, and after the way he played Game 2, I expect it's going to be looking good.
Oh, yeah. Doing a lot of damage in its own right is Bacchus, but instead now going to the Ares, some barns are definitely getting burned today.
That's right. It could, of course, it's Mouse. It's hard to know 100% where everything's going, but that does seem the most likely as we're about to move into the game. But I want to know first, who do you think's going to win this match? Vote for me in the polls. It's been very close so far. I think rightfully so. I think Game 2 was 49-51, something like that.
I think it was 59 versus 41.
59-41,
and
yeah.
It was Obey that had the 59%. Mouse really putting a staple on that game with Dardez's Bacchus. being a jack of all trades.
He really
kind of that
is, yeah.
Swiss Army knife out of your pocket. And now playing the Ares, doesn't have the same defensive peels. He's more of an offensive carry. And I think that's what Mouse is trying to rely on, the strength of the damage from this Ares.
Well, let's go ahead and get right into the action. Totally, I'll withhold it from the audience no longer. It is going to be Dardez on the Ares. Of course, Cherryo on his signature Athena pick in the jungle, and Nika taking Chang'e over to solo. BigManTingz has Ullr mid. This composition is about as reminiscent of their old triple guardian strat as you might want to get with the 2 hunters, 2 guardians combo.
Ooh, Dardez missing the chains. That really hurt. Onto Ataraxia now, trying to get some pot shots onto this Ares. That's the one troublesome about Ares. If you don't hit the chains, well, you're just less than half as effective. Even completely useless, actually, at level 1, considering you have no other abilities.
Does get them onto iRaffer and the other one onto Ataraxia, but not for maximum value because of the distance.
And also, using the chains there, there's no follow-up from Spudio to make anything happen of. Just kind of a waste of time there, as there's also 3 archers for Obey Alliance just pushing forward.
Yeah, these chains are going to be a little bit better as they open up some space. He's waiting on that 3rd one. Can't find it on Ataraxia. Instead, just kind of helps lock down iRaffer for Spudio to find some follow-up damage. But already we're kind of seeing the idea. When Dardez hits the chains, the lane is different as he finds Ataraxia. Getting in the way here is iRaffer. They want to keep going. Shell forced out. Dardez going to be happy with that.
Trying to take a lot of return damage, though. Every time Dardez goes in at level 1, he's taking all these pot shots from these archers, and he needs to be mindful about that. He could be much more healthy if he just times it a little better or waits to level 3 to be this aggressive. Level 1 chains, not that great. Level 2 chains is where it really starts hurting.
And that's kind of credit to Obey more than anything. They're not giving them any other opportunity to find those chains. It is 45 to 55
Mouse
between these 2 squads, actually favoring Mouse after their Game 2 victory, kind of agreeing with the desk.
And the thing about chains is it does, I believe, 11. If you time it perfectly between basic attacking perfectly in between every chain, I think you get off 11 ticks. So that extra 20 damage, if you get off that 11 ticks, an extra 220 damage at level 3, not too shabby.
No, not at all. And that's exactly what Dardez is going to be looking for here in this duo lane. There's been some action over there in duo, so you haven't had much time to talk about everywhere else, but Prime on the Agni, which has been getting mostly banned, I feel like, throughout this set, has finally made its way through. A very strong mid laner in his own right, going to be going up against BigManTingz here on the Ullr this time.
Banned away in game number 1, casually forgotten about in game number 2, making its appearance in game number 3. PrettyPriMe goes for the Zeus in the first 2 games, now wanting to get more control for him and his teammates, allowing CaptainTwig to lock people in with the AoE damage from PrettyPriMe and Xaliea. It's going to be, honestly, just all these jungle fights should favor Obey Alliance.
Absolutely, they really should with that Agni damage. I gotta think though, after the beating he kind of got in game 2, he probably is happy to have a dash now as well, instead of on that immobile Zeus where they can like wrap around his tier 1 and punish him. So definitely gonna feel comfortable on this pick after some of the pressure he's been under in the other 2 games.
Also, CaptainTwig really switching things up in this game. He played the Osiris in game 1, goes to the Assassin Naja in game number 2, going back to a warrior-esque jungler with the Odin in game 3, gives him more survivability to make these aggressive plays that he really wants to go for and still escape. And by him baiting himself out for as long as humanly possible, both Xaliea and PrettyPriMe are going to be looking to capitalize. In game 1, remember, it was the Chang'e Zeus that did a lot of magical damage. Same story can be said here between the Zhong Agni.
That's a ton of damage that they got to make sure they're ready for on the side of Mousesports. But I'm very curious as to how CaptainTwig is going to build it this time, because remember Cherryo, I believe he was one playing the Odin before. It wasn't particularly tanky. He kind of went with that Transcendence rush and was getting blown up a little bit. Is CaptainTwig going to try that same thing? Right now, it's looking like he might be leaning more towards that Void Shield we've seen a little bit more of.
Could also be the Gladiator Shield if he's looking for some cooldown reduction. Wouldn't be a bad idea to get some sustain for himself. Even getting the Gunryr's Might off on some certain targets gives you a little bit of boxing potential, especially when you're up against BigManTingz' Ullr. That's more of this early to mid-game god. You want to be able to fight fire with fire and get some bridge items under yourself.
4.5 minutes in, still not much action. Dardez almost finds a chain there. And speaking of Dardez, you can see the impact he's had in Obey Alliance, at least in terms of their relics. Just about everyone has got beads, because to be honest, there's not a lot of CC immune ults on the side of Obey Alliance. Ataraxia with the Petrify could avoid it that way, but He's basically it. So everyone else has to itemize into this more defensive start to try and get away from that no escape.
That's true. Xaliea, though, wouldn't mind getting pulled into the action, though.
I suppose not.
When he recalls all those demons, it's going to be a lot of AoE damage. Probably going to be rushing for the Void Stone. Is Xaliea trying to go for that tier 1 Druid Stone. He's normally a lot of Zhong or just mages in general will opt to go for the Warlock Staff, but not the case for Nika or Xaliea. Nika utilizing that bunny to finish off Genji's guard very early in the laning phase.
Would you play Zhong if his 2 was a jump into that stun instead of just the stun? Would you do that?
Wow.
Would you use
the
that?
Jump into the
He
stun?
jumps in and then he spins around when he lands.
Wow. No.
Because that's essentially what it is, right? When he gets pulled in, like it would be
like an EI Jitsu from Hachiman?
Yeah, yeah, except he jumps in the air, like a big jump through the air.
I'm scared of just imagining that. BigManTingz is scared of what PrettyPriMe and CaptainTwig are offering, so he's going to jump away.
Oh, man, taunt a little bit off the mark there from Cherryo as the dash comes out from PrettyPriMe. The difference between a Zeus and an Agni, for sure, as he's able to reposition without any big trouble. So that's going to be the consideration that's on the mind here for Dardez. Is he going to be comfortable pulling Xaliea into the rest of the team fight, essentially initiating for him if he's able to make it through that initial burst of damage? Because once he drops his own recall demons in the middle of everything, it could be causing more problems for Mouse than they want.
It's very true. Speaking of Xaliea, finishing off Shoes of Focus, whereas Nika's still working on his own mobility. And Nika is really afraid of some of these Odin rotations, so he's opting for that Phantom. Same exact thing that Xaliea did in game number 1 when he was against Cherryo's Odin.
And Cherryo really didn't end up showing that much attention to the Chang'e then, and I'm curious if CaptainTwig going to change that up or not, because if there's no gank by level 12, then I mean he could have had another relic to sort of help him through the landing phase a little bit better, but instead, CaptainTwig trying to fend off Cherryo, who's going very aggressive. The dash just came through from Prime, so that's down. Cherryo still locked in, and PrettyPriMe gets first blood on the Agni.
Never a bad thing for Obey if it's PrettyPriMe that gets the first blood with how aggressive he tends to itemize every now and then. Not the Rada Tahuti rush this time, probably going to be more of the Bancroft's Talon rush, as BigManTingz is afraid of the pluck from iRaffer, going to jump into the safety of his tier 1 tower.
It was Cherryo who needed the Phantom more than Nika in that last situation, but unfortunately he's itemized into that blink. No Aegis, no beads, nothing to sort of help him once he's been isolated by Twig and Prime, and he ends up falling in that situation. He's going to go right into that Stone of Binding, so a little bit of protections, but as you said, not a ton.
A little too ambitious was Cherryo trying to invade that speed, or trying to get away, rather. He couldn't find a way to get in and out of the action. The Defender of Olympus wasn't used. Could have used the blink to get in and then dash on the way out, but Baylines now have a little bit of a lead in terms of the jungle potential. CaptainTwig needs to make sure that he keeps finding Cherryo in the jungle and force an ulti for an ulti trade, because whenever you can force a global ultimate, well, now the rest of your side laners can sit quietly, recognizing Cherryo won't be a threat in that lane.
Cherryo does have an opportunity, though, by the way of the beads. He did force those from Prime, it looks like, in that last fight, as they're going to be down for another 70-plus seconds, another full minute. So maybe if they can find Prime without that dash, a chance to Belade even things out.
Even if they do cash Prime, though, it's going to be a lot of return damage. Bancroft's Talon just now finishing off. He doesn't have beats for 60 seconds, so there is a small window to take advantage of him, but Mouse hasn't really utilized that much with Dardez missing the plug, or missing the chains.
Yeah, that could have been nice if iRaffer might have been able to land that charge parade. They were both kind of looking for the initiation there. Were both supports, and neither one was able to quite find what they wanted, and so Cherryo should be safe after that. Everyone going to fall back. At this point, though, without Mousesports going aggressive, PrettyPriMe might make it back to safety with those beads. Dardez is here, though, has the no escape if he wants to go in.
But he doesn't have Blink to really force an engagement, instead going for the sprint, which is a kind of, not necessarily a pseudo Blink, but it's just going to help you get there a little faster, which can also be used for defensive purposes. It's better to prevent some of the slows coming out than it is to engage with a Blink Ares.
Yeah, he's hedging his bets a little bit there with that sprint, right? It can kind of get you closer for the no escape a little bit faster, but It's also probably largely just going to be defensive to get away from some of this aggression from Obey Alliance. Is another game that gets off to a bit of a slow start. If this is anything like games 1 and 2, though, right around that 20-minute mark or so, this game might blow wide open as one team really solidifies their advantage.
Taunt onto CaptainTwig, sets up Nika for the double waxing moon. Defensive Ring of Spears from Twig allows him to escape, but iRaffer and PrettyPriMe are around the corner.
iRaffer not hitting the charge prey, goes in aggressively. Cherryo ends up low either way, so Xaliea has to fall back. BigManTingz is rotated all the way over, gets off some good poke. But again, no one gets caught out, everyone's safe. Aside from that first spill taken by Cherryo, everyone's been fine.
Xaliea holds on to the recall demons with him being this low. He doesn't have the Void Stone to get that penetration that he really wants. Big Man gonna get stunned out, but PrettyPriMe holding on to the bombs, wanting to use it to clear out the mid wave instead.
And we haven't really seen much from BigManTingz here on this Ullr. I mean, often you pick the Ullr in the mid lane because you kind of want to bully out the other mage early.
That's
we haven't
how
seen
it
a
normally
ton
is.
of that, right?
Dardez was trying to make the rotation to help BigManTingz accomplish this, but a little bit off the mark with some of his chains and wanting to stay in that dual lane for a little longer than anticipated. And with the build now from Dardez getting Void Stone, this is where he can start looking for these forced engagements. Getting an aura item for the increased magical power and even the penetration from Void Stone is good enough to start forcing things.
Yeah, these auras have really started to just become the norm now. The Void Stone there for Dardez, the Stone of Binding sort of give that penetration out to the entire squad. I mean, they really have been the more efficient way we've seen builds go, not just for supports, from junglers, from solo laners, to sort of augment these team fights.
Xaliea goes back to base to finish off that Void Stone. Going to be doing a decent amount of damage now as Obey Alliance encounter Mousesports at the left side. Mid Harpies, bomb stun onto Dardez. iRaffer very low. He's going to barely escape with the lurking in the water.
Dardez, though, is stuck inside the cage. Lurking in the waters comes in. Dardez gets plucked back. Defender of Olympus not going to get there in time, but it is going to go on cooldown. Cherryo won't even have that at his disposal. Dardez now going to fall along with the Athena in the support role who fell earlier on in the game. It's 2-0 now for Obey.
If iRaffer wasn't too low in his health department, probably Obey go for that Gold Fury, no hesitation. But Dardez now very quick in the respawn timer, only sitting at level 8, is going to make something happen in the dual lane against Ataraxia.
Cherryo blinks in. Spudio is going to come join the fray. Petrify for damage. Not going to get the stun. Spudio, they kind of force it to get that kill, but now they got to find a way to get away from CaptainTwig, who dunks immediately down and deletes Cherryo. The slow was just too strong.
Forcing the Aegis out of Spudio, killing the other.
Oh, and he's too fast.
Spudio is thanking his lucky stars.
He's so fast. CaptainTwig just chased him down the lane. There's nowhere for Spudio to go. Now the chains are going to come out from Dardez, but CaptainTwig, the damage has already been done.
It's the Talaria boots, putting you outside of combat. You have 25% movement speed anyway. It's so obnoxious.
And
you
the
add a
speed buff.
speed buff on top of it. How are you going to escape?
We just saw that there's no real escape, despite the fact that the Ares wasn't involved. Well, iRaffer goes for the solo red buff invade and should get punished, but of course there's no justice in the world, so iRaffer will make it out of there.
Level 9 Sobek trying to invade a red buff. That...
He should have died.
You're right.
He deserved to die.
There is no justice. You don't get away with that.
You're
in
not
ranked
supposed to.
games, let alone SPL games.
They just barely didn't have enough damage to cut down iRaffer, who elected to go with that sovereignty early on. So surprising, really, that combo wasn't enough. Perhaps if they had had a mage, maybe through that extra sovereignty damage. But that's why iRaffer picked it up. It's good against Tings and Spudio. It's a great choice.
Trying to limit some of the DPS from the enemy hunters. Wouldn't be surprised to see him go for a Witchblade afterwards. Limit some of the attack speed. That's going to be an important factor as the game progresses and items become online. Or maybe even go for a Guardian Mail. Go for a selfish build instead.
iRaffer just barely escapes with his life. I'm a little mad, really, to be honest. Probably should have fallen there, but it's all fine. iRaffer, or rather Xaliea and Nika, continue to trade out over here in the solo lane. Things have been relatively even between both of them. They should both be able to comfortably make it now into that mid-game stage and be in full effect, as these junglers haven't really shown that much attention over here.
2-level advantage for CaptainTwig, making his rotation in the blue buff. Burn Bomb connects before the taunt comes through, guaranteeing the steal.
BigManTingz is duking it out with iRaffer, who does not end up getting stunned, is able to charge prey away. Continues to kind of skate on that line, though, doesn't he, of of safety and throwing his life away potentially, and that time he's okay, but maybe we can't say the same for Dardez. The cage has locked him in. iRaffer is here. Two-man taunt into the no escape. Not going to pull iRaffer with the lurking in the waters, but Defender of Olympus has to be expended. 2 ults for 2 ults.
Forces the beats from CaptainTwig. I'm not sure if his cooldown was not available for the jump or he was just holding it on for the escape, but if he did bird bomb Dardez, that was guaranteed kill.
He has a ton of damage, and Dardez was low and hasn't built any physical protection to this point. It was just the Void Stone, so certainly could have chunked through his Gold Fury. Now being considered by Obey Alliance. The R&D going to start pulling that. Cherryo gets plucked right back in. The stun's there. Petrify is there to lock him down, and Xaliea gets the kill.
Great pluck, setting up Ataraxia for the hottest of Petrifies. Really extending their lead now with this 5-1 advantage. Not necessarily gold lead, but getting some momentum in the experience department. Trying to extend it for the junglers. CaptainTwig with the utility jungle Odin is just outpacing Cherryo's utility Athena.
That's not the easiest ability to CC chain with, the Petrify. I mean, you gotta kind of make sure your timing right now is perfect, like right at the tail end of the initial stun. He keeps that going with his own, but great job there from the team. That stun works perfect, or the bait works perfectly on the Gold Fury. They do get the kill in the Cherryo, but Mouse respond with the Pyromancer of their own. But is this enough from Obey Alliance? This Mousesports squad clearly going to get off to a strong start with this Ares. I mean, has Obey done enough already?
It might be. Not enough, actually, because I think that the Chang'e is going to be packing quite a punch in some of the sustain. But there's a lot of damage coming from Obey Alliance between PrettyPriMe and Xaliea. If Xaliea gets into the thick of things and hits at least 2 to 3 members, I think Nika's sustain is not even going to matter in the team fights.
Spudio putting some pressure on the tier 1 tower because there's a fight happening in the jungle. Cherryo is yet again the target. He goes in aggressive, looking for the taunt, but everyone chases him out. He is able to dash away, but CaptainTwig still looking for him. He's all alone on an island. Blink into the counter blink, and the Defender of Olympus can't get it off in time.
Nah, your stationary target, PrettyPriMe, connects his second ability very quickly afterwards. A clean pick, honestly, without sacrificing anything in return. Gold Fury was being thought about by Spudio, but recognizing Obey a little bit too close now. Twig going to chase down everybody. Look how fast he is.
It's absurd, isn't it? How much he's been able to walk them down.
You can even see some blurriness coming from him. It's just a faint image of where he was 2 seconds ago.
He's just that fast. He's faster than his own shadow as Ataraxia pulls Gold Fury down below 4,000 HP. Dardez is the furthest one forward. They lease the objective and go for the kill. No escape comes out, but they all just turn their attention to him instead. Xaliea yet again is there for the cleanup duty. He's got the mop out as now they're looking for Cherryo.
Xaliea going to disengage cleanly. Still holding on to the Waxing Moon is Nika, so Obey must respect the positioning out of the Chang'e.
But they've been so clean of Obey. They've been patient. Great max range axe from BigManTingz. They pair that up with the Waxing Moon and take down iRaffer. Support for support. Mouse finally make an answer back.
Without a frontline engager out of iRaffer, Obey have to pump the brakes and slow down. It's Mousesports that have a slight momentum for 15 seconds. I thought for a second they were going to try Fire Giant there, but not without Dardez or Spudio. Instead, Gold Fury is looking mighty tempting.
They have the double hunter composition, which can very quickly burst down those objectives. So I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen them be around them more. It's just because Obey have kind of had all the pressure that they've been the ones who can come start up these objectives.
I wouldn't be surprised if Dardez goes for Shogun's Kusari immediately after the Sovereignty. For the aura, obviously, to get the magical power from the Ares, and also to just make better use of this double hunter from Big Man and Spudio. And looking on the tail end, on the opposite side, Obey Alliance really don't have the anti-attack speed items quite yet. They get the Divine Ruin from Xaliea, trying to worry about Nika's sustain, and probably a Pestilence out of iRaffer. They're more concerned about the healing than the attack speed.
That's what it looks like so far, or at least Xaliea is. I thought Prime might be the one that gets that Divine Ruin, but Xaliea going to have a very, very easy time applying that to everyone in a team fight as iRaffer plugs BigManTingz back in. Nika's here for the heals, and they can turn around towards iRaffer. CaptainTwig comes on the backside, drops the cage. Cherryo going to be the target, but a great Waxing Moon gets everyone out. No escape, should at least be able to pull in Twig and Xaliea to bring them low, but Spudio gets big crits on the backside. Airstrike just barely going to get him out of damage.
The dots from Xalia's card was just enough to pluck the bird back into the grave. BigManTingz gets the Athena ultimate on top, trying to gauge onto Ataraxia, forces out the beats. Look at iRaffer on the backhand side. He's going to look for a pluck onto somebody as CaptainTwig is chasing down Cherryo.
Cherryo now in some trouble on the left-hand side. Twig and Prime going to be the ones trying to hunt him down. But yet again, Obey Alliance get their clean pick, and they're able to fall back afterwards. This time it's Spudio, a very important piece of this Mousesports draft.
Trying to chase him down as Mousesports. Not in time to stop the red buff. Because of all the sustain from Nika, they feel confident to go for this. Great poke coming from BigManTingz. You can really see how his mechanics have improved. Going from a mage to a physical hunter where your team is really relying on you to hit a lot of these stunts.
He's been right on point with them all game long. Has BigManTingz, even though they really haven't had that many opportunities, been a part of one of their 2 kills and is farming quite well, keeping up with PrettyPriMe with no problem. Actually sitting up at the top of the player damage charts too, having a game for himself as BigManTingz. They're going to need more of that if they want to even things out. The experience lead is the real problem because gold's only about 1,000 away. It's that 4,000 experience they're fighting into that could be tough.
Most of it is from the junglers, with Cherryo being a level 14, CaptainTwig now sitting pretty level 17. Going back to that Talisman of Energy build, really expecting some sieges to start occurring. If there's any fight in the jungle, that item is not the greatest, so I'm surprised it's picked up at this point. Maybe get a Winged Blade first, and then establish some sort of a lead before you go for the Talisman of Energy. But it still sets up Obey for some siege potential.
Twig is too fast.
Yes.
Wingblade and the Teleport Boots and the Talisman of Energy. It's too much. My man is zooming.
531 movement speed on this Odin.
It makes me want to cry as now the fight goes on. Ataraxia takes a ton of damage early, but a 2-man Petrify comes out. No escape is on him. That's going to pull him right back in, and Nika's there to finish him off. iRaffer in the middle of everybody with the lurking in the waters. Gets stunned out. Waxing Moon is going to do that, but he is able to reposition.
Cherryo is the next target. He's going to run southwest while the rest of the team fight continues around the Gold Fury. Mousesports able to capitalize on the fact that Xaliea wasn't in position for this team fight originally to start.
And Mousesports, this time they're the ones getting the clean pick and now looking for the disengage onto Ataraxia to slow his farm down a bit and give Spudio a chance to get out in front. In fact, they can come over and start this fire, or this Gold Fury rather. They have BigManTingz and Spudio. That double 100 damage burns it very quickly. Gold Fury goes to Mouse, and Twig, who just came to see what was going on, could certainly end up paying for it. He does jump away. He's able to survive all the damage, and Mouse have evened this game back up in most categories.
CaptainTwig actually uses the beads just to jump away instead of just running away from the Winged Blade proc. It's actually Cherryo now with a Talisman of Energy for himself, being able to run on the same pace as CaptainTwig. Pyromancer being looked at, but Xaliea and PrettyPriMe are here.
Cherryo taunts in Xaliea, forces out the beats early. Waxing Moon only hits Twig, but iRaffer falling low in the back. Spudio removes him immediately. Xaliea does have that ultimate ticking, but it's too much tankiness from Mouse. He has to retreat. Spudio jumps in aggressive. Axe lands, forces beats from Ataraxia. A great stun from Prime. Does create some space, but Mouse can now come right back to the Pyromancer.
A 5-on-4 for 20 seconds. Yet again, iRaffer is the victim of this one. And Obey just can't get the mid-game under their grasp. They were able to, win some of this early game exchanges, sitting at 8-4 in the kill department, but dropping the Gold Fury, dropping the Pyromancer is giving some more momentum for Mousesports to come back.
And we're worried that this comp might be a little bit too early game, but as you said, Nika on this Chang'e remains forever relevant, if not just getting better and better, as Twig gets taunted in and immediately removed. Dardez puts in the last bit of damage, and he's gone from the map. 5v4 again, Mouse go right back to the Fire Giant. They're happy to keep resetting with this Chang'e sustain.
Look at Prime at the backside. He could drop some bombs. Cherryo zoning, Xaliea, Ataraxia away, but it's iRaffer that's back into it. Now, PrettyPriMe is still all the way back in no man's land. Xaliea is now the victim. Obey are completely on 3 different wavelengths.
Yeah, they're entirely too disjointed. Ataraxia gonna get pulled back in now. The chains are there to lock him down. BigManTingz finds the kill. PrettyPriMe still chilling on the backside of this fight. He was never really a part of it. He was lining up to try and steal the Fire Giant, but this is perfect. I don't know if they know that he's here. Cherryo comes to check it out. Taunts him right back in. He's controlled, but the rest of the squad's gonna keep burning FG.
All that time waiting around, wasted the bomb, not even gonna matter. That's a sour sight to see. The fact that PrettyPriMe was still up there during the entirety of that team fight while his comrades were falling.
Well, this has been the pace of the set this whole game. If game 1 and 2 are any indication, then whoever wins these big team fights around 20 or so minutes is the one that takes control of the game. And it's looking like that from Mouse. They taunt in CaptainTwig. The chains are there to prevent any kind of jumping. They don't have the hunters here, but the tier 1 tower should still come down either way. Mousesports, now the ones with a 5,000 or so gold lead. They're up in experience. They're ready to push and decide where the next fight happens. Plenty
of time for them to do something with this. This has been a theme of this entire set. One team fight, and then all of a sudden, the game gets blown wide open. The taunts into the chains between Cherryo and Dardez has been really helping Mousesports get an early pick or get off some poke damage to slowly chip Obey Alliance down enough to get an objective. And now they're going to be able to start grouping up with a Fire Giant buff.
What a game between these two teams. The kill count now even totally as we just crossed the 25-minute mark. And I want to talk a little bit about BigManTingz' build because he's still #1 in player damage here in the game. He's got the Crusher. It's like the only attack speed in the build, really, but he's got Soul Eater, Transcendence, tons of pen between Crusher and Titan's Bane. The abilities are swinging from him. They're still getting some of that mid-lane mage feel without the AoE because he's still putting out big ability damage numbers.
That's very true. I'm surprised that PrettyPriMe doesn't even optimized potentially for some like physical defense if he's going to be a target every now and then from some of this long range poke. It's so easy for Big Man to connect on this hail of arrow. Still looking at for some anti-attack speed items from Obey Alliance. In the first game, CaptainTwig got Horrific Emblem in the level 1 play. Surprised he doesn't switch things up and go for it at level 12. A little too late now to do anything about it though.
Well, Mouse are pretty firmly in control at this point in the game. They bring down the tier 2 in mid. Only Phoenixes are standing and totally, I mean, 7 minutes ago, this game was looking all Obey as BigManTingz goes in too far on his own. Defender of Olympus is here. Aegis immunes the damage. What looked like a bad initiation might be turning around as they taunt everyone back in. Raffer's low on the back end. No escape. Push the chains onto everyone, but no one gets pulled. Xaliea drops the ghosts, but Mousesports are still tanky, and they still look plenty healthy to me.
They are very healthy with Nika sustain and the Fire Giant sustain. PrettyPriMe gets taunted back in. He uses the Aegis, but it's not enough. A 5-on-4. Mousesports, honestly, they could even try to go for the end here without too many ultimates from Obey Alliance. The door is wide open for them.
They're clearly tanky enough, aren't they? I mean, who do you try and kill on this squad? Mousesports are moving into the Phoenix room. CaptainTwig, Raffer, and Xaliea are all here to defend, but the Hunters already shredding. Raffer goes in for the tail whip, but just gets taunted and deleted. Spudio hits the last shot. Cherryo's low, but he can fall back and heal. CaptainTwig has got to run for his life as Mousesports take down the Phoenix on the left-hand side. You have got to be impressed with this Mouse squad. BigManTingz jumps in, looks for the axe, can't find Xaliea, but Cherryo's there with the taunt and brings him right back in. Spudio takes him out.
It's a 5-on-2. Mousesports going on in. Ataraxia is the last one standing, and he won't defend it. Mousesports come back after losing game 1 to win the next 2.
Totally, you gotta be impressed with this Mouse roster, man. What a summer split that they've had. I know that they weren't able to make it to the land, but considering where they were in spring to where they are now, taking this set victory over Obey, they look so good.
It's amazing to see the performance from Dardez, synergizing with Cherryo, the Athena into the Ares. It's a very Dardez-esque pick into a strategy because not too many teams are confident enough to run the Ares despite how much damage he does.
And he wasn't even that great of an early game from Dardez, to be honest, on the Ares, right? He was struggling a bit, but that's Dardez in a nutshell, right? Just because something didn't work the first time, that is not going to slow him down. He came right back in, had a great mid to late game for them, and they got things under control. Was that enough to win you over, though, for the MVP voting? You like Dardez in this one, you like BigManTingz, Cherryo. I think you make a case for Tingz.
I definitely think that Tingz set up quite a few plays there with that long-range axe stun in the mid lane with Nika to follow up on the Waxing Moon. Great performance by him, which is impressive to always see a mid player to go from their traditional mages to go into a hunter and still be very successful.
Yeah, he absolutely still looked comfortable on that Ullr pick for him, and Mouse looked comfortable as a result. They were able to grab that Game 3 victory. We'll get it back over to the desk to break down the whole set.
Hell yeah. Put your mouse emojis in the chat and told you so.
I don't think that this was a clean-cut case, though, as you might be making it out to be a little bit here.
Even better.
Mouse, that Chang'e sustain is just so overpowering in comparison to the damage that Obey actually had. Their damage output was just impacted so heavily, and I don't want to pinpoint it onto the Odin. I think that CaptainTwig got off to a great start. It just didn't feel like Obey was able to maintain that same momentum throughout the match, and because of that, Mouse able to climb back into this one. And I also am a huge fan of what Dardez again chose to do for his itemization choices here on the Ares, really just taking advantage of the fact that the auras not only give Ares additional power, but it's just a strong items to have for a god that can deal so much damage as a guardian. The Void Stone and the Gem of Isolation. Those are the two big key points here.
Gem of Isolation Ares is enough to make him our MVP. You know, it's very interesting to me is that every time the support, not Dardez on Mouse, gets MVP, we always go, or we talk about, we go, oh, you know, supports don't get the shake, they don't get the credit they deserve, this, that, or third. Listen, Dardez gets all the love in the world, and he's deserving of it. Why is it so much more obvious what Dardez does compared to other supports?
I honestly believe that Dardez is a top 3 support right now.
I've been saying, I was saying that even when the team was objectively worse with Jermaine, Dardez has been up and coming for so long, and there's just it's sweet justice to see him do well. You know, it's like. Finally.
It's just one thing when you see a support player that has like a handful of gods that they start off with that people are like, oh yeah, that's one of their signature picks. You know that they're going to have a nice performance on that if they end up going for it. But Dardez, it seems like he's probably one of the most, if not the most flexible support players that we have in the league. Yeah. I think that in the past we would have been looking more towards players like iRaffer even as fitting that role. But right now, I mean, out with the old, in with the new, and Dardez is the wave right now.
Dardez will pick Sylvanas every chance you give him, and if not, he'll play the Ymir, the Ares, and then let's pretend you've banned out all Guardians. He will play Nox support and beat you with it. Like, there's, I don't know. I just don't know. I think Dardez is one of the best, like you said, top 3 supports. Mouse could be at the top. I definitely think that we will see them succeed in the fall split, and I think we see Mouse at Worlds. You can see him live if you get tickets. hi-rezexpo.com. You can come join us down at DreamHack 16th through the 18th. And I didn't say that just for the segue. I legitimately believe that Mousesports is a top contender this year.
You're not the only one. I could definitely see that being an occurrence. Of course, it won't be as easy as we're making it out to be to get there by any means, but the level of competition currently in Europe, obviously very close, at least among the top end of things, and now with Mouse throwing themselves as a viable option for the mix. I mean, Energy, they knew as soon as this Mouse roster happened, they're like, that's a team to look out for, and they're a little bit ahead of everybody else, but for good reason, because Mouse is there.
Wonderful stuff coming out from the European side, always keeping us on our toes. North America's next. CLG versus Weekend of the Boys, coming up soon.